Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming. My name is Mike Agnew. I'm the president of the Wylie Chamber of Commerce, and you are here at the Financial Relief Roundtable presented by the Chamber in partnership with Wylie Economic Development. And today we're going to discuss the latest grants or relief that was came out through the PPP, EIDL, SBA loans recently through the government. And we have brought in two of our expert CPAs to give us an overview, get down a little bit further after that, and dig into the details of where we can take advantage of the relief and how we apply and what hoops we have to jump through. Our first guest today is Miss Renata Schulmistrat, and she is a CPA with Gold Roots Accounting. Renata, thank you so much for coming today, and tell us a little bit about yourself if you can.
So I am the owner and president of Gold Roots Accounting. I'm a CPA. I've lived here in Wylie for about 14 years. And I started my own firm about 3.5 years ago. And I focus mainly on small businesses in the DFW area. A lot of my clients are here local. And yeah, I love helping small businesses. And I thought this would be a really good opportunity to help small businesses in our community to kind of understand what programs are out there. So.
Well, we do appreciate you coming on and bringing some information because I know there's a lot of need for it. And we also are joined by Miss Twyla Walton. Twyla, tell us a little bit about Walton CPA.
Absolutely. So I am the owner of Walton CPA PC, Cornerstone Payroll, and your payroll department. We work with small business clients who are looking to make better business decisions, or want to focusing on tax planning and wealth creation opportunities through working with them on a monthly basis. I've also been in the Dallas area for about 14 years now, but I've been operating in this capacity for longer than I want to admit to.
Well, we're glad you're still around. And
Thank you.
We were actually going to be joined by a lender today, one of our banking financial institutions, Miss Anita Collins with American National. They are one of the, I guess they're certified or they're preferred lenders, so to speak, of all of these loans and EIDL. Unfortunately, they've been a little busy, so she was unable to make it today. But what we're really going to be going over is a little the programs that are available for COVID relief, the steps that we need to do, as well as the helpful links and contacts, and then we will go through a Q&A open discussion with some giveaways and upcoming events kind of stuff, talk about what we got coming up with the chamber. But without further ado, Renata, would you like to start us off and kind of go over some of the programs that are available for those who may be, there are people who are first time doing this, and then some have been here already and this is your second go around. So maybe a quick overview, Renata, would be fantastic if you got a little info.
Sure. So are we on the right slide? Yes. Okay. So there's a few different programs that are available. I guess the first thing that you kind of have to ask about your situation is whether you have employees or whether you have 1099 contractors. Most of the available relief is for businesses that have actual employees that you process payroll for and you file payroll reports for. And that's where the most relief is going to come from. I know in the first round when people were submitting PPP applications, they were including contractor expenses, and then we found out later on that that wasn't right. So that's the first thing that you kind of have to check to see if if you qualify for any of these. It's usually employee companies that have employees. So the first one, the big one that a lot of companies are applying for is the PPP loan. It's the Paycheck Protection Program. It is funded through the SBA. The SBA don't accept applications. So you have to go through an actual lender. But basically, it was a program that was opened last year to business owners. And it's calculated based on your average payroll. And the deadline last year closed, but with this new bill that they passed at the end of December last year, it reopened again for anyone that needs to apply. If you didn't get it last year, you can apply for a first draw. If you did get it last year, you can apply for a second draw. And the deadline to apply for that is March 31st. So the calculation, how they do it really is for small businesses that have employees, they take your average payroll for the year, they divide it by 12 and then multiply it by 2.5. So it's 2.5 months of your normal payroll from last year. If you're a sole proprietor and you don't have employees, you can also apply for it as a sole proprietor, and it's based on your net profit that you reported on your tax return for 2019. Okay, and then the next one is the EIDL SBA loan. So there's a regular SBA loan and there's an EIDL SBA loan, and the EIDL is economic injury disaster. And it's specifically for companies that need funding to kind of get through the whole coronavirus disaster. And this is not a forgivable loan. So PPP is forgivable. You can take the funds, you can use them for payroll, and then afterwards you can apply for forgiveness. With the SBA loans, the EIDL and the regular SBA loan, they're not forgivable and they do have to be paid back. But they do have really, great interest rates. It's like 3.75 for normal business owners. And the repayment terms are very generous. I think they're up to 30 years you can repay them over. And the repayments don't have to start for a year after your loan is funded. So that's it's a good option for companies that don't qualify for PPP or other relief that's out there, just to kind of get you through the hump of lower revenues over the last year and into 2021. The regular SBA loan is it's a completely separate loan. It's nothing to do with COVID. It's nothing to do with economic injury disaster or anything like that. But a lot of small businesses could apply for that if they needed funding, and they weren't able to qualify for the other programs. The EIDL grant, that was only available in 2020. They didn't renew it for 2021. A lot of small business owners were able to get this grant. It was $1,000 per employee up to 10 employees. So you could get $10,000 in a grant. It's forgivable, doesn't need to be paid back. And with the new legislation that was passed, we got better advice about how related to PPP. It used to be that it had to offset the PPP funds that you received if you also got this grant. But in this legislation, they said, no, you don't have to do that anymore. It's forgivable. It doesn't have to offset the PPP. You can have both of them. So that's good. There's also payroll credits. Okay, and these can be really complicated. So I wouldn't try and calculate these and get these on your own. If you're not working with a CPA or someone who is well versed in payroll, I definitely try and get with a CPA to take advantage of these grants. But they are great. They are great grants, especially for 2021. They're available for 2020 and the first 2 quarters of 2021. And those payroll credits are refundable. So they offset whatever taxes that you're supposed to pay in to the IRS for your payroll reports when you're filing your payroll reports. And it's up to $5,000 per employee. And And again, I mean, the calculation is pretty complicated, but it's a great way to get extra cash in to help with payroll. If you have expended your PPP and you need more money, then that's a great option to go for. And that's based on, there's different qualifiers to be able to get those payroll credits. One of them is that your business was shut down completely because of COVID. And the other one is that your revenue, your gross receipts was down a certain percentage, quarter over quarter. So yeah, they're two really great options for payroll. And then the other, the PPP. Okay, I just wanted to kind of, if you hadn't been able to get the PPP loan for last year, it's possible that you could get 2 draws of the PPP loan this year in this go around if you're quick and you're able to get all your applications in. If you can apply for the first round, and then use those funds for payroll, and then after the 8-week period has passed, you can apply for a second draw. So that's an option that's out there. I mean, you have to be really organized with all your paperwork, your payroll reports. Hopefully, if you're working with the CPA, they'll help you get all that stuff together, or you have it already. But if you missed it last year because you didn't have any of your stuff ready, then that's available to you this go round. And then the deadline again is March 31st. So it's a very short window. It's a very busy time because it's, we're coming into tax season and everything. But I think a lot of CPAs that I've even spoken to are just kind of putting tax season on hold. We're trying to get our payroll reports in. We're trying to get all of our clients help with these PPP loan applications. So yeah, I think the faster that you can find a CPA to work with, the faster that you can get on these applications, then the easier it'll be to get the funding that you need to keep your business going.
Renata, thank you. If anybody has questions while our speakers are presenting, you can feel free to throw them into the chat. Tina with our office is watching all those questions, or just hang on to your questions. We're going to do the Q&A once we've completed the presentation. So again, thank you, Renata. And now, Twyla, I think you're going to take on a little bit of the lending. You're now in the banking business. So I'll let you take the floor for the rest. Go for it.
All right. So if you've decided that you're going to move forward with doing a PPP loan, the first thing that you're going to have to figure out is going to be, who do you approach to handle your PPP application? The easiest path of least resistance is to go back to whoever you've got an existing banking relationship. That's most likely going to be whoever manages your bank account. It might also be somebody that you've got an existing loan with as well. But most of the banks and the lenders out there are not going to work with you if you don't already have an account open with them. So you need to go and you need to reach out to them, find out what their method of applying for these PPP loans is going to look like. Sometimes they've got a completely different link. Sometimes they may be doing the paper applications, but each lender is going to have their own process of going through the application process. By and large, you're going to find out that it's mostly all online. So there's going to be a link there. They'll get you set up. You'll have to go through, provide all your information, upload your documents, submit it, and then wait for them to come back. The larger ones, you're probably not going to have a contact person if you have any kind of questions. It's going to be really hard to get to somebody who can actually help you through this process. Some of the smaller banks have been much more helpful with the ability to reach out to a live person and get somebody who can actually look at your application, tell you what you need or what you're missing, and help you walk through that process. It can feel like a very stressful time period while you're walking through the application process. One of the things that we have really done with our clients is we walk them through that with them. Make sure that they know how the questions should be answered, because that's really important to get those questions answered. My suggestion to you is going to be that it's a good idea to go and take a look at the actual application before you ever start the process. Make sure that you understand all of the questions and how to answer them. Also know there are actually 2 different applications out there. So if this is your first time applying, you want to make sure that you're getting the application for the first draw. If it's your second time, you're going to want to make sure that you are looking at the application for the second draw. So you've figured out your lending situation. You've taken a look at the application. What documents do you need to have? And that's going to depend a little bit upon what kind of business entity that you have. As Renata was saying earlier, most of these programs are built around having employees and payroll. So the primary forms that they're going to be looking for is going to be, what was your payroll expense? And you've got the option of using either 2019 or 2020, and you're going to want to use whichever one's going to give you the better answer. So payroll expenses. Then they're going to want to look at all the quarterly payroll reports that you filed for that year. So Forms 941, Texas Workforce Commission, Form 940, which is your federal unemployment tax return. In addition, if you've got health insurance, employee benefits, some of those will also count towards your application process. You'll want to walk through all of these things and make sure that you know what you've got. Now, if you're a sole proprietor, expect to be asked to submit the Schedule C out of your last tax return that you have filed. Most of these application processes, they'll walk you through exactly what you need, but you need to get all of these things uploaded and in there. If you don't get all the right documents uploaded, your PPP application stops. It won't move forward through it. If you answer some of these questions that are on that form incorrectly, it's also going to stop. You may get a rejection notice. You may have the opportunity to go back in and submit the right documents or change your answers to some of those questions. So down to the thing of how to get your application processed without delays, make sure that you know exactly what documents you need to upload, have them available before you start the application process. Take a look at those questions and make sure that you understand what the right answer needs to be. Make sure that you understand those certifications as well, because you will have to do some of those. And this is like any other loan. If you answer these questions incorrectly, you do open yourself up to possible lender fraud issues. So want to make sure you understand that process. Once your process gets accepted by the bank, they will turn around and submit it to the SBA. The SBA will review it, and then they'll get an approval, and usually you're funded pretty quickly after that point in time. How long is it going to take? It really depends. We've already heard how American National Bank is very busy right now with their applications that they've already received. They've got to walk through all of those. They're going to do their due diligence first to make sure that everything is there and everything is ready to go. But in a perfect world, you should be able to get maybe in a week or two have funding. Possibly quicker, possibly later, just depends on where you're at in the process. So you've got your loan, you've signed your documents. The next thing you got to start thinking about is preparing to have your loan forgiven. You will have to submit an application for loan forgiveness. Your lender is going to reach out to you and they're going to tell you when they're ready for you to submit the application. If they haven't reached out to you and said it's time, then they're not ready to take your application yet. When they are ready, they're going to send you instructions on how to do it. And again, you should expect that this is going to be an online process. They're going to give you a link. You're going to have to go through and answer some questions. There's going to be a number of documents that you're going to need to upload to support the expenditure of these funds. You do need to look at this in advance and make sure that you're in a situation that you can get your loan forgiven. If your business is still substantially shut down and you're not going to be able to pay 60% towards payroll, this might not be the right program for you. Or you need to be looking and make sure that you understand what happens if your loan is not going to be forgiven. But if your loan is not forgiven, it converts into a regular loan. You'll have a payment, you'll have a 1% interest rate on it, and you'll have a payment term to pay it back over. But the goal here is to get it forgiven. Again, we're helping people go through that loan forgiveness process as well, making sure that they've got enough expenditures that we can document to get their loan forgiven. That's it.
All right. We're going to jump back into basically next steps. This is from both of you guys. How do we get started to move things forward? Anybody want to jump in there? I think the first one is pretty obvious. Find a CPA. I have two that I'm looking at. So which one wants to take on any more next steps?
Renata, you want to go?
Yeah, I would just like to point out number 4. Be patient with your CPA in the process. If you don't have a CPA that you're working with and you approach one and you don't have anything together, it's going to be really difficult for any CPA to kind of drop everything and help you get your books done and ready to be able to apply for these loans. But we do want to help. We do want to help whoever we can. So the best thing I think that you can do is try and get your books updated and as clean as you can, get all your paperwork together. Organization is super important. I think Anita was saying before that of all the applications that they received at the bank, the ones that were worked on by CPAs or submitted by CPAs went through much more seamlessly. They had all their documents in place. You know, it was just more organized, and so it was easier to get those loans funded. Because you know we're looking at loan applications every day, so we know when there's something missing, and we don't want to submit the application until we have all the documentation, because if it is rejected, you get pushed to the bottom of the pile. So you don't want to submit an application until you have all your paperwork together. So organizing and getting all your papers together is really important. And then compliance costs versus COVID assistance costs. I just kind of wanted to go over that, because compliance costs would be like bookkeeping, payroll reports, tax returns, consultation, that kind of stuff, you know, that business owners need outside of COVID assistance. Those costs are going to be separate from like applying for all these PPP loans. If you don't have any of that stuff together, then you know you should expect to pay for those services. And then for COVID assistance costs, that just depends on who you're working with to help you with the application. You know, if you feel comfortable enough applying yourself and submitting your paperwork and everything, you know, go for it if that's what you want to do. If you are going to work with a CPA, then you know it's normal for a CPA to charge for those services, and banks are not going to help you get your paperwork together. So you're kind of stuck between doing it yourself or working with somebody who's an expert in the process.
So if you already have a CPA that you have a relationship with, that would be the first place that I would start this process, but understand that not all CPAs are well-versed in what all is required to package this stuff together. Both Renata and I, we focus on small businesses, and so we've spent a lot of time doing it. You'll have to find out whether or not they're open to taking on more clients, because as she was saying, if we're getting a lot of clients who are coming in who need a lot of accounting and back work just to get ready to provide some reports, we have to monitor how much of that we can handle at a time, and there may not be a lot of capacity for them. In our case, you know, because we do a lot of payroll reports is a very large piece of what is needed to apply for the PPP. With our payroll service, we already know how to pull all of those reports, and it's really easy to put them together and get a lot of the basic information that we need to put together the PPP loan. But everybody is going to be in a little bit of a different circumstance, and until we look and talk to somebody who needs a loan and understand your circumstances, we don't really know exactly what your paperwork needs to be. We don't really know what's involved to get it to the point that it is application ready. And again, it's a process. It's going to take what it takes, and it's a frustrating process, but you know, we know how to walk you through it, and you just need to make sure that you're partnering with somebody that is actively doing these applications.
So the more familiarity they have with it, the quicker it's going to go and the easier it's going to be.
It can be that way. I mean, some of it, you know, a lot of the payroll companies have put together reports, and it's pretty quick to download those reports and get a good sense of what has happened. We still need to do some massaging to those reports even after we've gotten them to get them ready. But it certainly expedites the process. I think the hardest ones are going to be the sole proprietors, especially if they don't have their accounting records up to date, because those are the ones that income statements are going to be required to apply. And if they don't have their 2020 bookkeeping completed yet, or 2019, they may not be ready. And there may be a lot of work that needs to happen just to get them application ready.
Well, so we do have some helpful links that we've put into the PowerPoint, and we can share those with you guys, SBA.gov, and then of course the IRS.gov. But more importantly, the helpful information that you really want is right below that, and that would be Renata or Twyla. They are translators of numbers, and looking on the call, some are the very number wonky folks who are doing it themselves. You'll take those top two links. The rest of us will take those bottom two probably and get clarification, confirmation, and a little bit of comfort. And that is the places to go for more information. And then now we're kind of at our point. You guys have anything you want to close with, Renata or Twyla, before we throw it to Q&A?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say, you know, I know that's a lot of information, and you know, we're coming at it from a CPA standpoint, and we see a lot of applications coming in. We see clients of all levels. Some are really organized, some are just not organized at all. But I don't want to deter you from getting the loans that you are eligible for. You know, I mean, this bill was passed for a reason. There's $284 billion worth of funding available. And if your business needs it, you know, don't be put off by the costs of trying to get you to the point where you can apply for these funds, because you'll be able to use them in your business to keep your doors open. You know, that's what it's there for. So if we can do anything to help, we're here. We're going to try and help you as much as we can. But I don't want you to be put off by, you know, the compliance that comes with all of that. So yeah, I just wanted to encourage the small business owners out there to get with the program and get the money that you need to keep your doors open.
I'll restate a lot of the things that she said as well. When this all started last year and I was talking to our business clients, my comment to them is, your job right now is to do what you need to survive. And I've had more than one of my clients reach out to me and tell me that their PPP fund is what helped get them through that time period last year. You know, also keep in mind, while we've talked mostly here about the PPP loans, it is not the only program that is out there. And so when you talk to us or anybody else, they should be also talking to you about some of these other programs and how they may be able to help you as well. Because there's a lot of programs out there, and there is a lot of considerations that as a business owner you need to be thinking about how do you get through and survive until we return to whatever normal is going to look like.
Well, all right. I guess now I was looking at the chat, Tina, either you've deleted everything and written it down, or nobody has any questions. Everybody has just thoroughly taken in every bit of the presentation like a morning breakfast toast with grape jelly. And we're all full, right? Nobody's got questions? There's
I have
one.
a question.
Wait, okay. I got Massage Bliss. John?
Yes, I have a question. On like my payroll, I switched some of my massage therapists over to regular employees from 1099 this year. So my payroll is actually higher than last year, but I don't have my taxes done for this year. For the sole proprietary part, can I use the sole proprietary part from 2020 with my payroll from, or 2019 taxes with my payroll from 2020? Or can I not use my payroll from 2020 until I have my 2020 taxes done to get the sole proprietary part?
I would think that we can take them into consideration separately, because a lot of the sole proprietors are not going to have their 2020 records available. The issue is, do you expect your 2020 net income from your sole proprietor to be more? And if you do, then it may be worthwhile to wait a little bit to get your 2020 numbers.
It may be slightly more, but I don't know if it's worth waiting, just because I still worry if it runs out or something, then you got zero. You know, but if I can combine them, that's good news.
Yeah, I think if you use you can use your 2020 payroll, that's fine. For any application, you can use either 2019 or 2020. Most people are not going to have their tax return filed for 2020 by the time, you know, they put their PPP loan application in. And the IRS has they've pushed out the date for even accepting e-files for personal tax returns to mid-February anyway. So it's going to be hard for anyone to apply for, you know, the PPP with their 2020 tax return. So yeah, I mean, I would use the year that's going to bring out the highest amount for your PPP. If you look at your 2019 tax return, you know, as a sole proprietor, the max that you can borrow or that you can get in funding from PPP is 20 grand. Because the max that they will take as your net profit is $100,000. So if you divide that by 12 and multiply that by 2.5, it comes to about 20,800. So if your average payroll was more than that, or more than whatever your net income was for 2019, then I would use the 2020 payroll numbers.
The only thing I would add on to that is actual filing your return is not a requirement. They just need to, if we can work that return up and have it on the forms, then you can use that even if it's not yet filed. And you may be able to get by with 2020 financial statements in lieu of a Schedule C for 2020 to support what your net income is as well. But then you may have a problem if you're relying on that.
Okay.
Good question, John. Christy, I think I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
Yes. Now I'm not a business owner, but I do have a lot of clients that are business owners. So just looking out for some of them that might go ahead and apply for the forgiveness, which is quite a few of them that I anticipate wanting to do so. Can you kind of give us some light on what you forecast them looking at closely, or if they need to provide additional documentation to be approved for that forgiveness? Could you all talk a little bit more about that, what that looks like potentially?
So it's going to depend upon, again, the type of business entity that you have. They're going to have to show how they spent the money. So it's going to be for payroll. They're going to have some payroll cost reports that they should be able to get out of their software. They're going to have to show their Forms 941, 940, a lot of the same documentation that's being used to apply for it for payroll. You're going to have to show that you were actually filing what your costs were associated with that. But in addition, they're also going to have to show documentation for all of the other non-payroll related expenses. So if they're planning on using it for rent, they're going to have to show that they've made rent payments, or they're going to have to show a rent statement from their landlord. If it's a mortgage, they're going to need to show a statement if they can get their hands on that. Utilities, they're going to have to be able to provide utility bills that they paid during their covered period. So each item of those other expenses, they're going to have to prove up documentation in that application.
That
Yeah,
help?
so also the SBA released new forms last week for loans under $150,000 and for loans under $50,000. So there's a simplified process for forgiveness for those amounts or below. And, you know, back to organization, you know, if you were able to get the PPP first round, and then, you know, you spent the money on payroll and utilities and whatever, if you are able to get track those costs, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to, you know, fill out those forms for forgiveness. But yeah, the forms that they released are a lot easier. They're just one to 2 pages of, you know, you just fill out the information. Let me see. There's a form for under $50,000, and that's form 3508S. And then the other form for 150,000 is
Easy.
what is it?
It's 3508 easy.
3508S, yeah. So those are the 2 forms that you can look up. But again, I mean, the bank should be getting with you, or whoever the lender was should be getting with you and giving you the right form to use for forgiveness.
All right. Any other questions? Anyone? All right. As I said, the information for both of our guests today will be in our presentation here, and then of course you can look them up at the Chamber website. First, I want to thank Renata and Twyla for coming on today to give us a little bit of insight and information to this. It seems like it's just changing constantly, and it is one of those things where to know that you're doing the right thing and not making some type of decision that is going to come back to bite you in a year in terms of owing more money, you need as much insight as you can. And they don't make it easy. It's very challenging to get through all the paperwork, and an extra set of eyes is always going to be helpful. And again, thank you guys both for coming on tonight or today. Appreciate that.